iOS 16 is coming, and we might see the beginning of the end of the smartphone era. I'll explain why during this new episode of the Daily Discussion. Hello and welcome to the Daily Discussion. I'm Quentin, and today we'll talk about the new version of iOS, the iOS 16. If we don't know each other yet, I've created the all-in-one, no-code business engine called Purple Wave, and each day in the Daily Discussion, I give you my 2 cents about an actuality in the tech and business world. So, each year Apple releases a new version of iOS. And I've got to tell you, I'm kind of a big fan of Apple. And actually more than that, it's like I'm a multi-generational customer of Apple. What I mean by that is that, most business use a customer long-time value to know how much a customer give them money on the life of this customer. Well, Apple has managed something that only a few companies manage to do, is that it's not just a customer lifetime value, it's a generational thing. My father was actually buying Apple computers when he was young, which was, kind of a long time ago. And, me, as soon as I was in age of buying a laptop, one of the first computer I bought was actually an iMac. So I'm kind of biased in this video because, I own pretty much everything Apple do, and I upgrade all of my Apple stuff quite a lot. So now that I've said that, each year, every time Apple releases a new version of iOS, I used to be very excited about it, because I used to be excited to see and discover all the new features that they got. But after a while, I got kind of bored, because it was pretty much the same thing. And, they took so long to implement stuff, like just a picture-in-picture video. I don't know for how many years we waited for this. Or just a split screen mode that is still not there, actually, on the last test version of iOS. So, I'm a big fan of Apple, but I know that sometimes they are, taking their time. I'm not even sure if there is a calculator on the iPad now. But anyway, this year is actually different. It's different not because they got new features. Spoiler alert, there's nothing new, nothing really interesting new anyway. But because the work that they did is slowly building the end of the smartphone era. And I do believe that this iOS 16 is really preparing for the AR era, like the augmented reality stuff, where we're going to move from a smartphone to glasses. And you'll understand why in a few minutes. And because of this new version of iOS, I don't want just to talk about iOS. I want to go deeper on Apple products, Apple Vision, and especially the war that we're going to see between Apple and Facebook. Because they are going to war together to build the future, and we'll see what is the best version of this future, at least from what we know right now. Okay, so let's take a look at Apple iOS 16. So, as usual, this is a very beautiful page that they did. What we can see is, I love their parallax effect, it's always incredible. So, the first thing that they try to show off is the new lock screen and make it more personalized. That's something that Apple always had trouble to do. They never really wanted to go too deep in the personalization. Now they are, because I guess, they have nothing else to do maybe. And, that's basic stuff. That's not really interesting. Multiple lock screen, widget, improved notification, live activities, all of this is not really the best thing. What I like with Apple compared to Facebook and other stuff is that they are not trying to keep you all the time in their devices. Like, they understand that sometimes you need to pause. So I think they are going to release way more stuff about filtering notification. Okay, so photo is not interesting. We have a couple of stuff. Better messaging, this is not the kind of stuff that I want to talk about. Rich collaboration, okay. Just to do a side note on the message is that I'm kind of surprised to see that the message application are not that developed. They are trying to do the SharePlay, which is a good idea. But compared to Asia, where people do everything in Line or WeChat, the messages in the Western world are not really are really just focusing on message. I'll do a podcast about that next time. So anyway, the mail, we don't really care about it. Better intelligence, that's when it starts to be interesting. We're seeing the fact that now the video player is not just a video player anymore. And that's actually huge. Live text for video is quite impressive, because now your video player is able to actually recognize text on what is being shown. So the video player is not just taking a feed like an MP4 or HLS or whatever format you did for the video. It's not just taking this feed and playing it. Now the player is actually able to recognize what is being shown inside. I mean, you can see that it can recognize text and copy, and it means that it can recognize way more than that. Not just text, but object. And basically the AI is really going inside the video, which is huge. It's huge because it's going with that functionality. And that's where you see the future. So this is what's really interesting. The live text quick action. This was already in the previous iOS version, but it was not working that well. And apparently now it's improved. And this functionality is actually going to be the future. Because what does it mean? You open your camera application. It's not to take a photo, but to look at the price, and you can get the currency exchange. It also means that if you can do that, you can look at the text on a paper, on a book, and actually get the instant translation. You can walk around the city, look at a menu in a restaurant where you don't speak the language, and have the instant translation. And that's incredibly big, because that functionality is going to be what will make the future AR glasses a must-have. Okay, I'm spending most of my time in Thailand. That's where I live. I don't speak Thai, just a little bit, but I've never really taken the time to do it yet. So imagine when you're traveling abroad, you put your glasses on and you go in a restaurant, in a local restaurant where no one speaks English. They give you a menu. You can just look at the menu through the glasses, and you can have instant translation. This is huge. This is really huge. You can because this means that you can go just way deeper with that. Imagine that with a camera basically on glasses, you will be able to have your Google Map or your Apple Plan, whatever. So you will be walking in the street, and instead of having to turn on your phone and look at your phone, look at where you go from your phone, you will have all the direction instantly in your glasses. And this was sci-fi a few years ago. But with that simple functionality on an iPhone, it means that it's going to happen much closer to what we think now. It means that it's going to happen very soon. So that's actually big. And then the other new functionalities are not really incredible. I mean, who cares about automatic punctuation or say it with an emoji? This is just simple details to make the experience a little bit better, but it's not going to change the world. And then what we see is the Home app rebuilding. So that just shows also the ambition of Apple, and we're going to go back on that very soon because it gives us a taste of the future. Same with health and fitness, not so much new thing yet on that. Bit of family sharing, well, why not? CarPlay, that's actually beautiful. The next generation of CarPlay for the new immersive experience. Are we going to see an Apple Car soon? There is a lot of rumors about it, but I'm not sure. Anyway, the day we will see that is going to be when the car will be ready, so it can take a few more years. A bit of security, accessibility. So this actually accessibility, the door detection is exactly what I was talking to you about before. They are putting all of the augmented reality stuff inside the iPhone camera right now to do this kind of stuff. But this, for the glasses, will actually change people's life. Look, if you're blind right now, or if for anyone that is blind, the fact that they will be able to just put their Apple glasses and have a preview of where the door is and Siri telling them that the closed door is 7 feet away. I mean, that's going to change people's life. That's really going to be a revolution. And the fact that it's now on the camera and apparently working really well means that all the hardware for the glasses will be ready. They will already have the software. And, well, everything else is just small details. So you understand why I wanted to show this iOS 16 preview. There is nothing really new on that. But the fact that the AI interaction with the camera is working well now will change a lot of stuff. So we've got the Apple revenue from 2012. And it's a breakdown by product. So as you can see, for example, in 2012, you had like 50% of iPhone, 14% of the sales with Mac, 18%, almost 19% with iPad. Wearable was only 8% and services were only 6%. Why I show you that? Because it's showing the real ambition and the real vision of Apple. In 2012, the main goal was to diversify. Because when you see this kind of breakdown, you see a company that is way too much dependent on the iPhone to make sales. And now, if we compare to Q1 2022, which was kind of weird time, the iPhone sales didn't really move. It's still 51% or 52% of the company. But you can see that the services has gone to 20%. The Mac has lowered a little bit, but the services, that's what's interesting. When you sell a hardware, like iPhone, Mac, or iPad, or even the wearables like the Apple Watch, this is a one-time sale. Okay, because their products are so good, because people love their product, they are going to buy a new Mac every 2 or 3 years, new iPhone every 2 or 3 years, same thing. But with services, they are going after the business. They are going to look for subscription, like the iCloud subscription where you just pay to have more gigabytes on the cloud. Or more advanced services like for nurture maybe some numbers or page services, this kind of stuff. But this is interesting because it shows us that the goal of Apple is not only to be an iPhone company or to be a Mac company, a laptop company like they were before. They want to be a company that you use for every aspect of your life. So at the end of the day, the vision of Apple is pretty much the same thing as all the GAFAM. The one that the media talk most about is Facebook. And we all know that Facebook wants to have all of our life on their servers. But the thing is, Apple is actually the company that is the closest to reach this goal. Because what they're doing is they have the door to each area of your life. Your personal life with your phone, your work life with your laptop. So you've got the iPhone, you've got the iMac or the MacBook. And now they want to be in the fitness and health since already a couple of years. That's when they launch the Apple Watch. Because the Apple Watch gives them so much detail about your health. But it's not actually impossible to think that maybe in a few decades, we're going to see Apple hospitals. Because they will have so much data about you with your Apple Watch. But they might want to build on something like that. And obviously, they want to move into car and games. Well, car, we see that apparently the Project Titan is a big waste of money, at least for now. And the game company, they actually release their subscription-based game. So similar to what you have with Netflix. It's been a couple of years that they have the ARKit game, but they never really managed to make money from that. But anyway, that just show that they are trying to be everywhere. And the thing is, maybe they will succeed. There is something incredibly interesting with Apple is the way they can learn from their failures. I want to go back in a few years ago. I think it was like about 2014 when Apple were already releasing AirPods. They had a few AirPods, but they never really managed to make it huge, people were using the AirPod when they were buying an iPhone, but usually they were just buying something else. And at the time, the AirPods that were working very well was Beats. So they had a very interesting move. What they did is that they actually bought Beats by Dr. Dre. They started to sell those Beats. They actually kept the company as it was and sold their own product. And then a few years later, what did we see? Well, we saw the AirPod. And the AirPod became a lot of people laughed about it because it was really a new kind of design at the time. And finally what we saw is that the market just went all in. I mean, all the other companies tried to do similar earpods to the AirPod. And then they did the AirPod Pro and the AirPod Max. And now the AirPods are like such a huge market share in the AirPod business that it becomes really big. So Apple has this capacity, this ability of taking a failure and making it a success. I mean, the guys, they are really, really patient. Which is why now we're seeing this war between Meta and Apple. Because basically they are fighting over two different kind of future. And I mean, there is a lot to say, like about Meta. I did a podcast about it a week ago, I think. And we could say so many things between their war between Apple and Meta, like the fact that with the iOS 14, Apple basically tried to kill Meta's ad business. And I'm not going to go too deep on that. I only want to tell you two things. The first thing is that Facebook and Apple have two different visions of doing business. We all know that Facebook buys a lot of company, like they did with Instagram, like they did with WhatsApp. And when they buy a new company, what they do is that they keep the product as it is and they just keep selling the same product, like WhatsApp or Instagram. Apple, actually, this is not really well known by a lot of people, but Apple actually buys way more companies than Facebook. Only in 2019, Apple bought about 20 companies, 20 startups. But what they do is they take the technology of all of those companies that they buy and they put it in their product. And that can actually change a lot about public perception. Because that's the issue with Facebook. Everyone knows that Facebook buys company and just keep selling that. Like they did with Oculus also. So Facebook is not being seen as really innovative because they just keep using the same product. Apple keeps a very innovative facade, a very innovative figure because of the way that they buy company and they take the technology of those companies and put them in their Apple product. So it's actually very interesting to see the difference of culture. So except the fact that Meta and Apple have two totally different ways of buying companies, the main difference is the way they see the future. So Meta is looking at a future that is totally virtual reality. Like Zuckerberg showed it at the last keynote. They want you to use their Oculus, so it's the headset that you put on the head that pretty much block everything from the outside. I mean, you don't see the reality anymore when you wear that Oculus. You're totally in Meta's world, which is called Horizon right now. And that's what their goal is. When they talk about building the metaverse, they really talk about building a new world that is totally virtual. But Apple, from everything that they showed us with the camera and the development part like the ARKit that I will talk about in a few minutes, Apple is really looking to build an augmented reality and maybe a mixed reality. What is an augmented reality is exactly what I showed you before. It's the fact that instead of putting a headset that actually block everything from the outside, they are actually more building glasses that have a screen that let you interact with what's outside. So Meta, when you wear their headset, you're just going to stay in the same room and you're not going to move outside from there. The glasses from Apple, apparently, from everything that we can see, is definitely going to be glasses that you will wear outside, that you will wear when you walk, when you go to a party, when you are at a restaurant. And it's glasses that the main goal will be to really make the reality better. You will be able to walk or take the car and have your GPS that show indication directly in the glasses. So when you're going to look at the street, you will know exactly what street you will have to turn. It's the kind of glasses that when you go to travel in another country, you look at a menu or you look at a document and you will see the translation right away, actually in real time. And I've been spending time using both products. So obviously I actually got an Oculus Rift that I was using and I've taken some time to play game and to do some fitness and all of the applications that they have inside that. And it's pretty good. It's honestly much better than what I thought at the beginning. But there is one major problem is that I'm not going to spend my days with that, There are some people that tried experiences like where they work also. they wear that headset, they connect a keyboard, and they just work inside the metaverse. And honestly, it just doesn't look that good. I tried to take a meeting inside, but just to drink your coffee is really risky. So it's working, but I don't see it becoming a thing, like something like the smartphone. It's not you will not have your headset all the time. But what I've tried also is the ARKit. So the ARKit is not a device. It's not glasses. Obviously, glasses are still a rumor right now. It's pretty sure that they will be there soon, but it's just a rumor. The ARKit is the tools that Apple gives to developers to build augmented reality experiences. So basically, when you use the ARKit, it goes on Xcode, so it's the developer tool for Apple, and it really lets you do your development, connect your phone, and see how it would look with a camera. And the experience was amazing. I mean, the ARKit works so well that Apple is already building the full ecosystem for their glasses. A decade ago, 10 years, 12 years, I don't remember, when they released the iPhone, Apple didn't have any application on that. I don't know if you remember, you had your iPhone, you had just a couple of things. It was very hard to go to internet. You could not even download a video at the time. I mean, there was almost no game, basically. It was really blank. But my guess is they released the AirKit already a few years ago, and it's just working better and better every year. What's going to happen is that developers are already building games and applications to be used on an iPhone with a camera. But for sure, all of those applications will be available right away when Apple releases the AR glasses. Everything will already be there. So it means that when Apple will release the AR glasses, you will have already a full ecosystem that will be ready and that works incredibly well. When you do the comparison, because obviously Apple is not the only one working with AR. You've got Google with Android that has something called ARKit, and that is basically doing the same thing. So helping developers building augmented reality experiences. But the thing is that the ARKit doesn't work that well compared to the ARKit from Apple. There is a simple reason behind that. Apple only needs to support a few devices. They know every iPhone, every characteristic of each iPhone. And there is not so much. So it's easy to do something that works on that works well, which is very hard, but to do something that works well on every different iPhones, because iPhones or iPad, because, well, they are all the same, basically. But Google, with Android, has a task that is almost impossible. They have to make the AR code working for all the different smartphones that have Android. And there are just so many that is a crazy task. So what I can tell you is that the future is being built and there are multiple paths ahead of us. Maybe we will live in a future with augmented reality where AR will allow us to live more in the present time with the glasses and where the augmented reality becomes a layer on top of the physical world. That's option number one. The option number two is that we will actually live in a fully virtual future. In the Matrix, basically, where we will all become blind, only living with a headset on our head and meeting in virtual places. But there is also a third option, is that maybe we will just nuke the Earth and get in a crazy war with Russia and China. And well, I guess we're just going to see that very soon.